Today we are discussing the fragmented crucible, a new era where the global steel market is no longer a single predictable cycle. Instead, we are navigating a threat matrix involving blocked shipping lane in Hormuz, suspended mining in Pokrovsk, and strict new carbon law in Europe. Now, let's look into this slide, which is about the reality behind the numbers. On the surface, which demands look steady at 1.78 billion metric ton, but that mask a major crisis. We are facing a massive overcapacity of 700 million metric tons, meaning we are building way more steel than the world currently needs. So imagine a hotel that is only 70% full, and that is our current global utilization rate, down significantly from its healthy past. So now coming to a uh, this slide, which is about a broken economic cycle, which says that in the past, steel prices followed a regular wave of high and lows. That cycle is now broken because government have added 165 million metric ton of extra capacity for political reasons. This means the recovery we expected in 2025 is now pushed back to 2027 or 2028, forcing producers to sell steel at nearly what it costs to make. So the growing gap between reasons, uh, so growth is happening in some places but shrinking in others. For example, China is shrinking because it housing market is struggling, as we know, since a patch of time. In contrast, India is the superstar, growing at 9%, and by 2026 India's demand will be 75 million tons higher than it was just a few years ago, making it the only real engine in a slow global system. So now let's come to this slide, which is about the three theater of disruption matrix. So the three theaters of trouble that we are dealing are uh, warfare that disrupt our work. So theater one is the physical war in the Eastern Europe causing coal shortage. Theater 2 is the shipping blocks in the Middle East causing energy price hikes. Theater 3 is the regulatory warfare in the European Union, where new carbon taxes are being used as a tool to block imports. Now, coming to the uh, Pokrovsk dominoes effect. When the uh, Pokrovsk coal mine in Ukraine closed, it started a chain reaction. European steelmakers, especially in Italy, lost their easy access to raw material and now have to buy from far away places like Brazil. To make matters worse, they now have to provide a proof of origin certificate for every single batch of steel to prove it didn't come from Russia. So this is again one additional hurdles. Now coming to the shipping gems and price spikes uh, in the Middle East, the block at the Strait of Hormuz is like a giant traffic jam for 25% of the world's seaborne energy. China alone lost 10 million tons of iron ore pellets because of this, which pushed prices up to 105 US dollar per ton. This threatened to shut down factories in the Middle East that rely on these specific materials. The carbon tax maths. As you can see that Europe's new carbon tax CBAM is a verification game. If an Indian steel mill emits more carbon than the US standard, they face a 0.73 ton CO2 liability gap. If they cannot prove their emissions are low using official auditors, the tax penalty could skyrocket to nearly euro 270 euros per ton of steel. So this is a big, huge margin, and it is a big hurdle to keep anyone more competitive in the market. Now, coming to the India's four pillar of growth, which is visible here, the four pillar of growth is driven by uh, uh, a huge 12.2 trillion government budget for roads and railways, a relentless demand for new houses, high-tech car manufacturing, and the fourth one is the new defense projects. So essentially, India is in the middle of historic construction boom, we can say. So uh, the export roadblock. Let's look into this. India is making so much steel that it has started exporting it in record amounts. However, Europe is running out of quotas, basically limits on how much they will buy. This forces India to pivot and compete directly with China in Southeast Asia, which is a very tough, very tough and crowded market. Coming to the security, or we can say the securing the skeleton supply, our biggest weakness is coking coal. We have to import 95% of what we use. While iron ore is stable, coal prices are wild. India's strategic reference is to produce 140 million ton of its own coal by 2030 and buy mines in countries like Australia and Brazil to ensure we never run out. So, future proofing with technology and green steel. We are preparing for tomorrow with three steps. The first is 26% green steel mandate for government projects. The second is the piloting a new ways to make a steel using hydrogen. And third is using AI artificial intelligence to perfectly track our carbon footprint and optimize how we blend raw material to save money. Now, coming to surviving the new reality, and to survive this fragmented crucible, we need resilience and digital agility. We must own our own raw material to avoid geopolitical shocks and use software to prove our environmental credentials. In this decade, the winners are not just those with the biggest factory, but those with the smartest technology.